It's time to change the conversation about mental health.
When you know something is wrong.
When you feel alone.
When you can't explain what hurts.
When every day is a struggle.
When you can't ask for help.
When your friend or family member seems fine on the outside,
but hurts on the inside.
Sometimes I feel as though I'm the only one that feels. But I know that's not true.
We can change.
We can change.
We can change.
We can make a difference.
There's power in our difference.
We can support each other.
We can fight stigma.
We say it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay to have a mental health condition.
We all want to feel heard.
To find hope.
And to live in a world without stigma.
Without discrimination.
And we are a force to be reckoned with.
I am not what happened to me.
I am how I overcame it.
Stand with us.
End discrimination in mental health.
You can see the person, not the condition.
You can build understanding.
You can play your part.
The conversation changes with me.
With me.
With me.
We are well-beings.
We are all well-beings.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olga Villaverde, host of the Smart Life on the Health Channel. Thank you for joining our live stream for the Wellbeings Tour. This is such an exciting event for us. For the Wellbeings Tour, by the way, the Wellbeings is a national campaign from public media with a focus on youth mental health created by public media station WETA. I also want to thank all of you for tuning in today. Thanks also to the partners of the Wellbeings campaign who have committed to helping youth through this amazing initiative. Today, you're going to hear from a panel of mental health experts and young adults who are here to share their own stories and offer so much help to others.
Don't let yourself go. Everybody cries. Everybody hurts. Sometimes. Sometimes everything is wrong. Now it's time to sing along.
and we welcome you to our live panel for the Wellbeings Tour South Florida. I'm Olga Villaverde, host of the Smart Life on the Health Channel on South Florida PBS. Today, we're talking about youth mental health, so important, and how to help family and friends show support for their loved ones. By the way, if you'd like to send in questions, we would love to hear from you. Over the next hour, you can send your questions. You can do so on the South Florida PBS and Health Channel Facebook pages, as well as our YouTube pages. Again, we want you to know you are not alone. We are here for you, and we would love to hear from you. So let's get to our fabulous panel. I have three very special guests. First, we're going to start with Randy Silverman. She's the founder and executive director of the Youth Mental Health Project. Welcome. Also joining us is Rafis Nin. He's a licensed clinical social worker and the director of clinical coordination in Matagway of Broward County. And finally, I'd like to introduce another special guest, Krishna Lewis. Isn't she beautiful? She's a youth leader presenter. Yes, she goes to the University of Miami, and she's a presenter for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And I guess I'm going to say welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Randy, let me start with you, if you don't mind. You, again, are the founder of the Youth Mental Health Project. You know how important it is to talk about mental health. What made you become so passionate about this?
My children were very young. My middle son started exhibiting signs of severe anxiety, but I didn't know that children could have anxiety. And so when I went to the teachers and professionals for help, they pretty much told me it was a parenting problem, that I needed to use sticker charts or discipline more, or that I was not disciplining enough. And because I didn't know that children could struggle with mental health problems for no apparent reason, my son fell into a very deep depression. And by the time he was 9 years old, he was suicidal. By the time he was 10, he was in a hospital. And by the time he was 12, we needed to send him to a residential treatment center. Sorry. I'm sure parents out there know that there's nothing more painful than watching your child struggle. So I went on a mission from that point on, because once I realized how common this is, 1 out of 4 children struggle, and this is before COVID, I became determined to teach and support other parents and families and help them learn the things I didn't know. Because again, knowledge is power, and we can't help each other if we don't even know what we're looking at or what we're talking about. So I want all of our children, all of our youth, all of our teens and young adults to live in a world where they don't have to be ashamed of having struggles with their mental health any more than they would be ashamed with struggling with their physical health.
Rafis, let me bring you in. You are a licensed clinical social worker, as I said earlier. So you work with a lot of families as well. Families who have been impacted by suicide. We just heard Randy talk about her son at 9 years old becoming suicidal, which is just so difficult. You've also been working with so many people affected by the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting. So your thoughts on mental health crisis today. Where are we, Rafis?
Right now, the country, we all experiencing the pandemic. We are dealing with this crisis, and young people are also dealing with this. We have a higher number. We've seen the number going up for young people. Young people in this country are part of the vulnerable population dealing with this. So we're seeing more stress, more anxiety, more depression. But again, we are dealing with this pandemic and this crisis right now.
Right. And Rafis, what led you also to become an advocate? I know you have a personal story, and if you don't mind sharing it with our viewers.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, in a painful way, at a young age, I lost my dad to suicide. I don't wish that on anyone, but that led me to, after I went for my own healing and therapy and faced my pain, I decided to help others. I wanted to become a therapist, and today I'm a licensed therapist, and I help others walk through the journey of grief. So I know firsthand that suicide is I don't wish it on anyone.
And I'm so sorry for your loss. I really am. Krishna, let me bring you in. I mentioned earlier that you're a youth leader presenter for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. What does that mean to you, and what is the purpose and I guess the passion behind it?
Youth lead presenter shares their own experience on mental health, as well as educate and bring awareness To me, it's an opportunity to not only share my story, but hopefully impact someone. It is important that we end the silence and stigma on mental health and show that it's not something to be ashamed of. It does not make you weak. And it is common to face a mental health challenge. It's a challenge for a reason, and it may be difficult, but being able to control it and overcome it is very rewarding.
And would you mind, Krishna, sharing your personal story as well?
Of course. I experienced anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression. My journey was a struggle. I was in war with my mind every day, every night, and it was draining emotionally, physically, mentally. It's like trying to get over fear, but a fear that you have no power getting over. Especially with my post-traumatic stress disorder and depression, my fear was losing my mind when I really was. I was honestly putting myself in a dark place, and only for it to get darker. I could not seem to get out of. It was horrible. I hated myself because I felt out of control and my negative thoughts were taking over my mind. But I do hope that sharing my story, I'll be a voice for the voiceless, for someone out there can see that even though you feel hopeless, there is hope, and the challenge will only make you stronger than you will ever imagine. It may be hard to believe, but look, I'm here now live, and for the first time, I'm speaking about a part of my life where I was my weakest.
And it's so important, those words that you said to everyone out there watching, that you are not alone. And that's the biggest message here, that you are not alone. And that's why we have these discussions to make sure you're aware of that, and we're here to help. When you were feeling depressed and down, did you have any family and friends notice? Did they initially reach out to you?
Yes, they really did notice. No matter how hard I would try to put on a face, they could see it. They would show their support even when I did not ask for it. Even when I was in denial and would push them away, they did not give up on me. And they continue to check my well-being, especially my great two friends who've been there for me since the very beginning, Jody and Ashley. They have always known from they could be miles away and they will just know that, okay, something's wrong with Krishna, and they will still be able to contact me. So I feel like the support from them and many other friends and family that I do have has really impacted me.
I want to pose that question that I think is really important about police forces bringing in mental health experts when need be. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's good to work together with the police. I think it's work with the system. Mental health is a systemic problem, and systemic problem requires systemic solution. In other words, we need to work with the police. But there are times when the police is called, or people are afraid to call the police, Olga. What I noticed in my experience of 21 years, some families are afraid to call the police because of everything that's happening in our country. People are afraid sometimes to call 911 when they're struggling. And I want to encourage everyone, the hotline for suicide or for mental health, to still call, to still reach out for help. Most of the time when they come, it's a specialized unit that comes that are trained to deal with mental health issues.
Sometimes people just don't want to make that call, and it can really make the difference. Can it, Rafis?
Yes, it makes a big difference. I mean, one call could help so much. And there are so many resources out there that sometimes families struggling don't know. There's many help out there, and people sometimes do not call because they think they're alone. Like you said before, there's no need to struggle alone. There's many services in Broward County, in South Florida, in Miami. We have many resources in our South Florida region.
What is the number one thing someone can do to support their loved one who is experiencing a mental health challenge? Because sometimes that initial moment is the hardest for family members, Krishna. What would be your advice?
Just to be there for them. Even when you do not understand what they are going through, give them time and do not give up on them, because they probably already gave up on themselves. So you not being there for them just gives another reason why they have no motivation to believe in themselves and their process. So just understand that they're trying the best that they know they can do. So please don't take it personal, and please continue to push them. Even though they may not want to be pushed, continue to push them. I know it helped a lot for me.
I think just being there for people, you don't have to know all the answers. You don't even know how to have the right question. There's no right question. Just invite to talk to them, text them how they're doing, check on them, invite them to watch a movie. Just be there for them, like Krishna said. Just be there for them.
Absolutely. We're now going to hear from two special people. The first is a video from Ashley Jones. She is a young adult who is sharing her story and how her loved ones helped her along the way. Then we're going to hear from Mark Hedstrom. He is the U.S. Executive Director of the Movember Foundation. He was interviewed by PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs about the importance of getting people talking about their mental health, particularly for men. Let's watch this.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Bianca Jones. I am 28 years old, born and raised in Miami, Florida. In 2015, I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and generalized anxiety disorder. While facing such challenges, I find that it is super important to have the support of your loved ones. Some ways that my loved ones were very supportive of me was by simply allowing me to speak and express how I was feeling. Also, they got me out the house from time to time and reassured me that I will be okay, reassured me that things will be okay. Some unhelpful statements I've come across along the way are statements such as, "It's not the end of the world," "You're acting crazy," "Get over it." I would try replacing those statements with more reassuring statements. Something simple as this: "I'm here for you. Your feelings are valid." That will go a long way. Moving forward, some things that I do to help me while facing mental health challenges are going to the beach. I love the beach. I love listening to music. There is a song for every single emotion. Also, I'm a person of faith. So my faith has gotten me through a lot of my situations, a lot of my hardships. I pray a lot. So that is something I want to say that has helped me. What I want to leave you all with today is this: there is hope for you. There is hope for recovery. Keep pushing through. I'm fighting with you.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with Mark Hedstrom, Country Director for Movember. So, Mark, what is Movember?
Movember is the men's health charity that asks men, and has been asking men for a number of years, to grow mustaches in the month of Movember, and also for men and women to support men's health and the work that we do across prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and men and boys' mental health and suicide prevention.
And such a topic of today, mental health, we're all keeping inside. What are you doing now to help these people go through their problems?
Yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, obviously we're involved in a lot of work in mental health, and I think most people know us for the mustache and the work that we do around raising awareness for men's health issues. And probably for our work in prostate cancer, we've been investing in that space in both biomedical research and patient navigation and survivorship for a number of years. But I think more than ever now in the US and in the other 19 countries that we operate in, mental health is front and center, particularly for men and boys. And it's really an opportunity for us and other organizations that focus on this issue to raise the awareness around the risks that men face with respect to mental health issues, as well as the risks that they face with respect to suicide. So it's an opportunity for us to really engage men and those that care for men in a conversation about how do we address the ongoing issue, the public health crisis that is suicide amongst men in the US.
Talking about conversations, you guys have a program online, I think it's called Movember Conversations. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
That's right. And, you know, if you think about the fun part of growing a mustache, right, and that origin story and what we've learned about getting men to use a mustache to have a conversation, talk to their friends, their family members about their own health or how their family members may be doing. The lead into our work in mental health and even in prostate cancer is around engaging men in a conversation. So Movember Conversations is a platform that we had been developing and piloting before the coronavirus hit every country that we operate in. And we expedited that because we felt it was really important as we looked at, you know, the request for people to physically distance, the impact on social isolation and how we know that's a negative or confounding factor for poor mental health. And how could we lean into the conversations and really sort of garner the opportunity for men and those that care about men to understand how do you start a conversation about something that might be difficult, right? We're all experiencing different levels of anxiety as a result of physical distancing, loss of jobs, etc. It's a perfect opportunity to lean into those conversations and really find the vocabulary to just start it. And I think it was really important for us to put that forward because we realized there was an opportunity to really start helping men just in getting them to have a conversation and talk about some of the issues that they face.
What does Movember do to help people with strategies or somebody going through a tough time? What do they do to help them go through this mental health issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about mental health and suicide prevention, it's a spectrum. And where Movember spends its time is in the prevention end of that spectrum. So there are a lot of organizations and people that are focused on the acute end of suicide and prevention in the sense of someone who might be in crisis. So National Crisis Text Line, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, et cetera. Those folks are really geared and armed with the means to really help people who might be in crisis. Where we focus our efforts is really on the front end, on the prevention end. And how we refer to that is how do we prevent more people having potentially difficult moments in their lives? And part of what we found is social connection is a key preventative measure in helping individuals through what might be a traumatic experience or it might be an ongoing issue. So when we step back and look at how can we help and how do we help prevent more people going down the wrong path, whether it be depression, anxiety, or potential suicidal ideation, is engaging in a conversation and allowing that permission to happen. And the way we do that is through Movember Conversations, as I mentioned, but also deploying a model that we co-developed with an organization in Australia called Are You OK? And the model is very simple. It's called ALEC, and that's just the acronym. And it's really about asking, listening, and I always say listening without judgment. I think that's a critical component of this piece of work. Encouraging action. So different from what we typically talk about people seeking healthcare, men like to take action. So encouraging action is incredibly important. And then finally, the C is checking back in, right? So having that framework to engage in a conversation and ask a man how they're doing is incredibly important. It's a very simple tool to use, but it can be pretty impactful in terms of helping a man through a difficult challenge.
I want to thank you, Mark, for sitting down with me. These are definitely conversations that people need to start having, and it's important to promote men's mental health. So thank you, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Manny. Thanks for having me on.
Such interesting points in that story that we just heard. I want to get to a couple of points, but before we do so, we've gotten so many wonderful questions from our viewers, and I want to get to them as soon as possible as well. So, Krishna, I'm going to give this one to you. It has to do with teens and college students, and I think that's appropriate here. Michelle, how can parents best support a college-age student who wants to drop out due to lack of friends, the virus, and depression?
I feel like parents, I know, especially my mom, she's a single mother, and she has been my go-to person and has helped me a lot through my process. I actually experienced that too my freshman year. I wanted to not drop out, but transfer, just stop school completely. And what my mom did that really helped me a lot was show me that, yes, I know you are going through a lot right now, but she helped me talk things through, and she showed her support a lot and helped me by not trying to understand, I guess I can put it in that way, but more so communicate with me and help me through it.
And Rafis, I have another question from Beverly. How do you help a teen who doesn't want to go to therapy anymore, but is still not willing or able to go to school?
One thing that we have learned from the pandemic is that we have so much online. So if they don't want to go to therapy, they could go to an online therapy group, find support. There's many social support groups online. People could go online and find support, reach out to people. So if you don't want to go to therapy, maybe they don't want to go in person. There's a lot of online therapy. Maybe they could call a hotline. I just seen after the story, there are some numbers that they could call. And they could call a hotline. It's 24 hours, call someone, talk to someone, reach out in a way. They don't have to go to therapy if they don't want to. They could go to a support group online. They could talk to friends. They could talk on the phone. There's many things that people could do nowadays with the pandemic.
Absolutely. And there was one thing that came up in the story that we were watching, Rafis, and I wanted you to address it if possible. And then after that, I want you to give me some of those numbers so maybe our viewers can jot them down. But they talked about men having a harder time about suicide prevention and mental health. And I have a statistic here. According to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, men are almost 4 times as likely to die by suicide than women. Why do you think so?
You know, Olga, those statistics, I'm not surprised, sadly. I'm not surprised. It's very sad. But, you know, most people watching right now or young people watching might have heard this phrase before: boys don't cry, men don't cry. So we are raised as men not to show emotions, to be tough, not show emotion, you know, and men have emotions and we have emotions, and boys do cry and boys do have emotions. And there are things when we fear failure and we have to talk about those things. For men, it's very hard to show emotion. That's number one. Number two, men, when they make an attempt, when they think that their life is, I just want to end my life, they do lethal, aggressive way. So most men do things that it's kind of hard to survive those things. So we, again, both boys are tough, men are tough. We race car, we jump from things, we have guns, we have different things. And so when men try or make an attempt to suicide, their means are much more aggressive. I want to use the word masculine, but aggressive. Men are aggressive by nature. And again, it's important for parents, it's important for any boy or any young college student, any man watching. If you're feeling down, talk to someone. Men do cry. We're going through emotions, and part of being a man is feeling emotion. When you fall in love, you feel emotions. So we have emotion just like women.
Of course we do. And that's why it's so important we're having this conversation. You had mentioned some numbers, Rafis. I don't know if you know them by the top of your mind, but could you share some that maybe would help our viewers? And I'm going to jot them down as well.
Yeah, sure. We have two. One is the 24-hour hotline, which is easy to remember: 1-800-273-TALK. 1-800-273-8255. The other one is the text hotline, which is texting HELLO, HELLO. So any young person right now, if you're struggling, you could do a text message and reach out. Text HELLO, HELLO, to 741-741. So basically, you pull out your phone, you text HELLO, the word, to 741-741, and you will have a counselor 24 hours a day who could just listen to you. You don't have to be suicidal. You could just feeling sad, overwhelmed, or your family might be going through a lot of things right now and you feel helpless. There's help.
Randy, would you mind if I asked you how this affected the whole family as a whole? And I'm a mom. How did you get through it?
I think really helping other people is ultimately what helped me. Giving back and trying to make some meaning and have some good come from this really difficult experience. Absolutely, it severely impacted my entire family. I have 2 other sons, and as siblings, it was so difficult for them. It had a very negative impact on my marriage, and we were all of us, including my son who was ill, we were traumatized. And we were isolated and alone. And I when I looked around in my neighborhood, all the other kids seemed fine. So of course there was a lot of self-blame and doubt and shame in everything that was going on. And it wasn't until I researched and read and learned and dug in on how to help my child, like I would if he had any other physical problem, that I started to realize, wait a minute, there's no reason that people shouldn't know about this. This is so common, and there are things we can do to help our younger children. So if I knew then what I know now, I believe the trajectory of his illness would have been very different. I'm not saying that he still wouldn't have struggled, because we all struggle, and there's a genetic component also. But if we can understand what we're looking at, there are great methods of help and early intervention. And I just want to encourage all the parents out there who feel that it's their fault. Mental health and mental health disorders particularly are not your fault, and you are not alone. There are millions and millions of children who struggle every day, and teenagers and young adults. It's not just young adults and it's not just teenagers. Young children can struggle too. So we have to work together as a society, as a culture, to change the conversation so that it can become a conversation we can have on the playground and the soccer field, just like we talk about allergies or orthodontia or any other parenting issue. We need to break the chains of shame and blame. That's what we really need to do, and come together to support parents whose children are struggling.
I do want to show another story, but before I do have a couple questions I want to get to real quick. Rafis, Sylvia writes, what is the route to go now? Drugs or other programs? What are the steps to really get answers?
I think the first step, and I'm going to answer the question. I think the first step is to reach out for help. Whatever is drug, alcohol, depression, mental health, just feeling sadness, feeling overwhelmed, reaching out for help. We've given some numbers. The first step is saying, I need help, or I'm not feeling well, or I want to talk. I am not feeling myself. First step for any problem, I learned over the years as a therapist, is to ask for help. Is to really ask for help. And again, Olga, I want to bring up the issue that for men and for boys and for husbands and brothers and father, it's very hard to ask for help. And just like we heard in the video, is you could reach out to another man, reach to a friend, to a brother, a basketball friend or a college friend, a classmate or a roommate, and say, hey, bro, I'm not doing good. And just reach out, just say, I want to talk, I'm not doing good.
And it's important that they know that you are not alone. Such powerful words there. Yeah. We have a video that I want to share. PBS NewsHour student reporting labs. They asked students to respond to the controversy surrounding a popular series on Netflix called 13 Reasons Why, which received some criticism, if you will, for its graphic depiction of suicide. Let's take a look at this.
We asked the NewsHour's own student reporting labs to ask some high schoolers for their take on the series. Some applauded the show.
I thought the series would help students that are grappling with suicide just because the show promoted awareness for students who deal with suicide and depression, and they wanted it to start conversations. So it became so popular and so many people were talking about it that I felt like it did.
I really feel like it's important for adults to know how much social media impacts us now. It's a different time, and social media is one of the biggest reasons why suicide happens nowadays.
Others were concerned how the show dealt with suicide and mental health.
I feel like there's a lot of younger audiences who watch it, and that they watch it and they get the wrong idea that maybe suicide is okay or suicide is romantic, or maybe if I kill myself, there will be a boy somewhere who turned out to be in love with me. It shows the pain that others are suffering, but it doesn't really address the fact that Hannah's dead.
The message behind it was to be kind to everyone so they don't commit suicide. But in the show, no one helped her. The counselor didn't help her. All the students didn't help her. She reached out to people, but none of them tried to help her. And that it brings a bad message to people who actually have depression and stuff, that they can't talk to someone about it. No one's gonna listen.
Krishna, I want to ask you your thoughts on 13 Reasons Why. Do you think it starts a conversation? Do you think it's raising awareness, or do you find it to be a negative?
I feel like there's mixed emotions, honestly. It did open the discussion, yes, especially on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It brings up an uncomfortable situation and something that's very sensitive, and that was the point. But I think that the way the show tried to depict the message, as many of the people said in the video said, it did kind of give a bad message, because yes, it shows that what she was going through, but it doesn't show what everyone around was going through it in that case. I feel like it could have been shown better, to the fact that, okay, with more support and show a better message, okay, this, a better happy ending, I would say. I feel like in the show they could have added more positives and stuff, but instead it showed a lot of negativity, especially with me, who I dealt with depression too as well. Seeing that, I could feel how she was feeling, but then around other people, I was like, oh, okay, I could feel that too, like not being heard, being ignored, no one listening to me. I felt like it kept bringing up emotions and like triggers as well.
Your thoughts on this, because I know you've written and produced a movie based on your life. If you'd like to talk briefly about that and how that helped you, and how that kind of movie that you made would be different than the one that Krishna's talking about in terms of creating that awareness.
Yes, thank you. And I just want to agree with Krishna about 13 Reasons Why. It's a very complex topic, and it needs to be handled very carefully. So there is a balance between realism and maintaining a hopefulness, but really showing how it is, and then using it as a way for discussion. So I wrote and co-produced a film actually called No Letting Go, which is available out there in the world to see. We made it, and I made it, to use it to bring about conversation. It's really important to get people talking. And so to the degree that any piece of media opens up a conversation, if you are going to watch or allow your child to watch something like that, use it as a moment to discuss it. Sit with them and watch it with them and discuss the good and the bad and the things that are true or not true. So that's what we hope our film, No Letting Go, does, is that it really speaks to those who are struggling to let them know they're not alone. And it's a window into the experience of what families go through when their child is struggling. It takes on some messaging about families and siblings and how society treats the family and the isolation that's involved. So we worked very hard to make sure that our messaging was accurate and yet hopeful.
And hope is always very important. Rakis, I want to talk to you, especially regarding hope. Lots of questions about loneliness, lack of friendships, especially in young people today. Pandemic hasn't helped out. How can we help those who find themselves lonely and they feel alone?
Loneliness and feeling alone during this time is just taken to the roof. People felt alone before. We are, in America, we live very lonely lives. Many people, especially college students and young people, we need to keep a social distance, physical distance, 6 feet away, but it does not mean that you have to keep a social distance. Still reach out to friends, say, hey, can we talk? Can we do a Zoom? Can we do FaceTime? Can we watch a movie together? You could watch, a Netflix or any movie online, stream together. Hey, let's watch this movie. You make some popcorn. Let's do it at 8 o'clock. Let's play some games online. Let's just talk about this movie. Let's go for a walk. That would, if you invite your friends, let's just go for a walk. Let's play basket. Let's just go. You can keep a distance, wear a mask, but do not isolate. So how do you deal with loneliness during this time? Is by not isolating.
A lot of people struggle, Randy, and please tell me your thoughts. And I'm going to ask you this question, Randy, regarding people that say, stop it, it's not the end of the world, or you're acting crazy. Things like that don't help. Words matter. Words are impactful. I'm here for you. Your thoughts on that with loneliness?
Oh, words are so important. The first thing I want to say is connection. Personal connection is so important. And there are studies that have come out to talk about how important emotional and personal connection is. And so we really believe at the Youth Mental Health Project that parents also can be very isolated. And a parent who is in distress is unable to help a child who's in distress. And so we've developed programs for parents to help them connect, called the Parent Support Network, which are free and confidential support groups for parents who are worried about their children, because as of course we all are. In terms of language, there's nothing more important than language. And I think it's really important for people to understand mental health as being on a continuum. Again, sometimes you have Sometimes you're well, sometimes you're not well, just like with your physical health. But when we use terminology to disparage or words like, oh, you're crazy, or just snap out of it, those aren't helpful.
Right.
So always ask yourself, if you were talking to someone who had cancer, always ask yourself, would I tell them to snap out of it? Right? If you treat your friends and your loved ones and the people you want to support around you as though they had a medical physical illness, and give them the same support, the same casseroles, the same cards, the same connection, that's what we need to do. We need to treat it the same way we do any other physical health condition, because it is a health condition.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. I want to turn now to an upcoming documentary produced by Ken Burns. It's a 4-hour film to be released in the spring of 2022. The film will look at young people dealing with mental health challenges and also focus on the importance of awareness and compassion. We'd like to now give you a preview by showing you, and it's called Selects of Ken Burns Presents Hiding in Plain Sight, Our Mental Health Crisis. Take a look.
The only thing I know how to do is to share my own story and my own experience. I can't tell anyone what they can't see for themselves, but I can tell them what it was like for me, what happened to me, and what it's like now that I have recognized my own illness.
It was something in the back of my head, really. It was not something that I didn't really worry about.
My dad was an alcoholic, and just like the anxiety of him coming home at night.
It's a strange thing to look back on and think to myself, I really didn't care about anything at that point.
I remember a lot of nights where I would sit in my bed and cry, like for hours after hours.
I felt a lot of pain inside, and I couldn't explain that. I couldn't relay that to other people outside.
The feeling is like walking through, it's like being pulled down, being pulled into like quicksand.
It affects my daily life all day, every day.
To go to school, you put on a face, a facade. You're happy, you're bubbly, and then you eat lunch alone in the bathroom.
I started to self-harm. I learned it in a book that I read.
I'm tired of the voices. I'm tired of everybody labeling me and saying that I'm crazy.
What happens to people with a serious mental illness is that, just like a serious cancer, it begins to metastasize. It turns into disability.
I remember waking up and being in the psych ward and being like, what am I doing here? I had a very high opinion of myself.
It gets complicated by substance abuse.
Drugs and alcohol worked very well for me because they took that anxiety that I had and that sense of isolation, and they eliminated those things.
Drugs and drinking, and that was kind of my excuse, like that outside excuse to match up that feeling of powerlessness inside.
When I finally did start to think oh, I'm probably an addict, I was like, no, you're just lying to yourself,
When the suicide rate goes up, nobody even knows about it.
I still had a whole future that I had planned, it's like I was planning the suicide, but at the same time, I was making plans to go out to the movies with my friends next week.
My life was gonna end one way, and that was being addicted to drugs, so why not start now?
I wasn't meant to be on this earth.
Long sleeves, no one knew what was on my wrists.
It was actually on social media. These boys were harassing me about something I did. I couldn't deal with it anymore. Yeah, I actually went through with it. I actually tried to hurt myself.
Those are the moments where I have the best opportunity to plant a seed in someone else's mind. The fact of the matter is, if you don't show some vulnerability, If you don't speak honestly, then there's no truth. And if there's no truth, there's no connection.
It's taken me a very, very long time to even speak openly about it. I think there's a lot of pressure in being vulnerable, especially now with social media and everyone judging you. My roommates don't even know half of this stuff that I'm telling you guys now. And I'm nervous, like I'm kind of shaking inside to even talk about it. But if I can even reach 2 people from everything I say or this story, then I did my part in this world.
We don't understand how common it is. We don't understand how important it is to talk about it and be open about it. So this is the problem that we all deal with in secret. And the result is that we don't deal with it well.
What powerful stories. So much there to talk about, and the courage of these people to express and share their lives and their feelings. God bless them all. Rafis, I have a question from a viewer, and we're running out of time, and I really do want to get to it quickly.
Right.
It's about schizophrenia, the complications with drug abuse. What can someone do to help?
The first thing they could do is reach out and find treatment. There's many treatment, even if they don't have any financial way to seek treatment. There are public hospital, there's mental health places. Schizophrenia is one of those conditions you need to be under medical care. You need to have under medical care. There's some evaluation that has to be done. Schizophrenia is something that you might actually need some medication and need help. You can't do it alone. Schizophrenia, depression, suicidal thought, those are things that you need help. Again, reach out to help. You're not alone.
Absolutely. Randy, as we wrap up this hour, any final thoughts you have for anyone out there that's dealing with mental health challenges, even caregivers as well? We always have to remember them.
Absolutely. I think for the parents and the adults and the caregivers, I want to say that, sorry, that video just struck me. I kept thinking that one thing people don't know is that the second leading cause of death in ages 10 to 24 years old is suicide, behind accidents. We don't know that. We don't talk about that. And these are our children. These are our children we're talking about. But I want to say that it's important to remember that there is help and you're not alone. And you don't have to do this by yourself. There are a lot of us out there willing to help, wanting to offer services. Knowledge is power. Teach yourself about it. Be open to learning about it. There are a lot of great resources out there. And let's keep the conversation going, because these are our children. These are our future. And the times that we're in right now of such extreme uncertainty, we have a crisis on our hands. Now is the time that we have to change the conversation.
Rafis, any final thoughts to our viewers, please?
I agree with Randy. We are all in this together. We're going through this pandemic. It's so many lost. So many of you have lost family members. Reach out. You're not alone. Don't suffer alone. Call 1-800-273-TALK. Reach out. Talk to a friend. And also, I give you an easier one, 211. If you're in South Florida, if you're in Florida, call 211 and they'll connect to any of this number. 211 will get anyone. That's an easy number. 211 you could dial. The texting one is you text hello to 741-741. Text hello to 741-741, 24 hours. If you forget any numbers, remember 211 if you're in Florida. Reach out. We own this together, and this too shall pass. We're going to get through this together. Have hope.
Fantastic. And Krishna, I'm going to end with you. You're a senior at UM, graduating soon. You are magnificent. Any final thoughts?
I just want to say to all the viewers to look at me. I literally did not know how people could be depressed until I was, or PTSD until I experienced it myself. Better yet, going to therapy. I thought it was a sign of weakness, but then it ended up helping me. And this is my first time sharing my experience, and I feel so proud of myself. Finally finding inner peace and happiness. One thing I do want to say is do not focus so much on what happened yesterday, last week. Don't focus so much on the past, but the future. I know that I'm about to graduate. I'm here at the University of Miami. But the biggest accomplishment for me overall is I found myself, if not a better version of myself. I finally won the battle with my mind, and to think I would never get to this point of my life, I wish I can go back in time and tell myself, you just got to keep on pushing. Be true to yourself. You got to love yourself at all times. You can't just love yourself when you're at your happiest place or a great place in life, but also at your lowest. Because you are your strongest person, but you also are your weakest. And you got to continue to push through. You will be able to get through this. We all here for you.
Absolutely magnificent. Thank you so much, Krishna. I wish you all the luck. I have a feeling you're going to do amazing things. I'm not even your mother, and I'm so proud of you, but I'm sure your whole family is as well. Good luck to you, Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
We need
Very
more young
powerful.
people like you.
Oh,
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I'm going to cry. Thank you.
I look forward to seeing all the wonderful things you do.
Thank you.
Me too.
Thank you so much. And Randy, thank you so much for sharing your powerful story and what you've done with your life and what you're doing for so many others as well. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us and for hosting this amazing event.
And hopefully we can have another one, because like you said, we need to have more conversation about this, and we need to remind everyone out there that you are not alone, ever. Thank you again to all three of you.
Thanks.
Bless you all. I want to thank our viewers as well who sent in questions and comments. So grateful. By the way, you can find local mental health resources at, and jot it down, wellbeings.org/South Florida PBS-resources. A bit long, and I'm going to repeat it again. That's wellbeings.org/South Florida PBS-resources, where you can learn more about the Well-Beings campaign. I'm Olga Villaverde. Thanks again for tuning in and for supporting South Florida PBS. You take care, and please be safe. And remember, you're never alone.